Chapter 7 Three Mongolias and the Nianban Institution. In previous chapter, we talked about the frontiers policy of the Qing dynasty by pacifying the Mongols by advocating the Yellowhead sect. We frequently hear a phrase called Manchu and the Mongol are one family. Well, was the relationship on Earth between them good or not? The answer was yes and no, as it depended essentially on which Mongolia was referred to. When we are talking about Mongolia today, two parts are involved, Inner Mongolia and Outer Mongolia, which have been separated into two different countries respectively. We are going to talk about the Mongolia in history related to China, since we won't talk about Mongolia in Russia, Central Asia. The one which was related to China was actually three parts instead of two. On the border of China and Mongolia, Outer Mongolia, there is a desert situated northernmost in the world. Or in other words, where is the world's northernmost desert? It is right on the Chinese-Mongolian border, which is called the Gobi Desert. It is not a desert with pure sand, but Gobi with sand. Circling this desert, the Mongolia tribes were divided into three parts. The part south to the desert was called the Monan Mongolia, which is today's Inner Mongolia. Well, not exactly. It is just a part of today's Inner Mongolia, since Inner Mongolia consisted of two parts before. Tongliao, Xin'anmen, Humen were one part. Suiyuan, the other. The tribes south to the desert, Monan Mongolia, included places what we often call Kurqin tribe, Kharka tribe, Chahar tribe, Tumot tribe. Monan Mongolia got well along with us, well, I mean the Qing dynasty. The tribes north to the desert was called Morbei Mongolia, which was of quite a distance, and basically it was the Outer Mongolia, which indeed comprised a part of the Kharka tribe, Outer Mongolia, and the area as far as Xinjiang, neighboring Russia. Two famous Mongolia tribes were Chechen Khan tribe and the Tuxie Tu Han tribe. How about the relationship between Morbei Mongolia and the Qing dynasty? Well, as said, we had a very good relationship with Monan Mongolia. Morbei Mongolia had a good relationship with us superficially, which could be described as, I would be obedient to you politically. However, as long as there was a mere rustle of leaves in the wind, it itched to have a try. Overall speaking, Monan and Morbei Mongolia were manageable. The tribes west to the desert was called Moxi Mongolia, also named Oirad or Ulat Mongolia, which was quite famous in history. This tribe was not friendly to us with the fact that it was a huge khanate. In early Qing dynasty, the Oirad Mongolia and the Qing were almost of the same size in terms of territory. This Oirad Mongolia had a tough relationship with us, I mean the Qing dynasty. The battles taking place in early Qing dynasty were all against Moxi Mongolia, the majority of which was today's Xinjiang. Moxi Mongolia bordered roughly by Altai on the east and the Ili River on the west. Moreover, all of the Moxi Mongols of various tribes were quite brave and skillful in warfare. For example, Zheng'er tribe, Heshuote tribe, Tu'erhuote tribe, Du'erbote tribe, Huite tribe. The former three tribes were especially renowned for their valiant warriors. Hence the saying, Manchu and the Mongol are one family, actually referred to a harmony family together with Monan and Morbei Mongolia, but Moxi. Moxi Mongolia had been always swinging between provocation and obedience. The imperial house of the Qing dynasty formulated the Nianban institution in particular to strengthen the harmony relationship between Monan and Moxi Mongolia. What is the Nianban institution? It was an institution that the Mongol princes and the nobles came to Beijing to have an audience with the emperor yearly, which was a symbol of these Mongols' allegiance and obedience to the Qing government on one hand, and an obligation on the other, right? The Nianban institution sounded voluntary. However, it was essentially mandatory. Not anyone could be the decision maker on whether to present to the court or not. This Nianban institution was the representation of the so-called Manchu and the Mongol are one family. Besides, this institution had rigorous rules and regulations, including but not limited to your schedule and the routes to Beijing. Entourage number, residence upon your arrival in Beijing, and offerings of tribute. It certainly did not excessively require how precious the tribes were, and it was either acceptable for things that were dear or cheap. The main purpose was to express your sincerity. But still there was detailed requirement for the tributes. You don't have to worry. The Great Qing Empire would be in certainty to grant much more rewards in return than your tributes. The tributing process was just a mere formality. The Qing government had a clear definition on the tributes, which should be local specialties to avoid over-tributing. For instance, Monan Mongolia need to pay tributes like eagles, as the Manchu had the customs of Cochin eagles, and other animals like dogs, sheep, horses, sables, and antelopes. Morbei Mongolia's tributes were almost the same, which were sheep, horses, camels, walking sabris, and Tibetan incense. There were two banners in Monan Mongolia that did not need to pay tributes, as they had had a strained relationship with us since the Ming Dynasty. They were the left and the right banners of the Tumote tribe. How about Morbei Mongolia, which referred to Sechen Khan tribe and the Tushetu Khan tribe, as they situated far from us and always kept a tepid distance just for face saving. They did not need to bring any formal tributes. Instead, they still needed a tributary ritual which was called 九白之贡, referring to 9 white tributes, a set of special tributes including 1 white camel and 8 white horses. This was a diplomatic ritual but ceased in the reign of the Tongzhi Emperor of the Qing dynasty. The Yonghe Palace was essentially transformed to a Buddhist institute when shifted from a palace to a lamasery. So, where were these monk students from? They were brought annually alongside with the tributes for the sake of the Nianban institution of the Mongolia, including not only the Inner Mongolia but also the Outer Mongolia. Thus, the majority of the monk students of the Yonghe Palace were Mongols. The Mongol princes and nobles needed to select the kids at the annual tributes timing. And these kids should age from 12 to 15, survive the variola ever, and be of comparable talent. Titled Lama Trainees, 学艺喇嘛, these monk students would be brought to Beijing annually. Except for sending the Lama trainees, you, the Mongol princes and the nobles, must pay tuition for them as well. That was to say that it was not free to study in the Buddhist institute. On the contrary, you would be charged the tuition, and it should be paid by the individual man and lord of the Mongolia. This was the important mission of the Nianban institution of the Mongolia, to send the Lama trainees to the Yonghe Palace and pay the tuition. Well, you had to pay as they were sent as government-sponsored. The quota of the Mongol monk students to be sent to the Yonghe Palace was 80. There was a term called 80 monk students by recommendation, which meant 80 monk students to be sent to the Yonghe Palace from different tribes of Mongolia. Among these, 60 were designated to be from 6 leagues of Inner Mongolia, and 20 were from 4 leagues of Outer Mongolia. The 6 leagues of Inner Mongolia could basically fit into today's maps. Zhelimu League was today's Tongliao. Zuosuotu League was the 2 manor counties near Chifeng and Liaoning. Zhaoda League was today's Chifeng. Wuranchabu League was today's Jining. Yikezhao League was today's Ordos. Xilingguole League remains today as the original name. The 6 Mongol leagues listed above were the ones that sent tributes to the Yonghe Palace, and it was of no necessity to talk about the other 4 leagues of the Outer Mongolia since they were not part of the territory of China today.